Hi, welcome to our webinar on moving to the city. Today's webinar is about moving to Denver and specifically for our young alumni and upcoming graduates to give them the chance to connect with alums who already live in that metro area. My name is Ellen Young. I'm the Assistant Director of Mizzou Made Career and Professional Development at the Mizzou Alumni Association, and I support alumni career and professional development initiatives, which sometimes includes connecting with alums in a space like today. We're glad you're here for today's first session of our 2026 series and are so appreciative of the alums who are joining us today and sharing their time with us to help that next generation of Tigers. If you have questions during our time together today, put them in that question box right below the stream on your screen. And if you had questions that you submitted when you registered, we already have those on our list, so no need to submit again. Let's get right to it and introduce our panelists. I know that's what we're all here for. So first, we have Courtney Gears. Courtney is a 2010 Mizzou graduate with a Bachelor of Journalism and currently serves as the editor-in-chief of the Denver Business Journal. Gears oversees newsroom operations and editorial direction as the editor-in-chief. She joined the publication in 2018 as managing editor before becoming the editor-in-chief in 2021. Prior to joining the DBJ, she was the director of digital news production for the Denver Post, and she also has experience working for Politico in Washington, D.C., and the Patriot News, Penn Live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Courtney moved to Denver in 2014. Welcome, Courtney. Thanks for being here, Courtney. How's it going?
It's going great. It's a beautiful day in Denver.
I feel like it's always a beautiful day in Denver. I'm jealous.
Very often.
Well, we're glad you're here. Let's keep introducing. Next up, we have Katie Parkins. Katie is a 2018 and 2020 graduate of the University of Missouri and graduated with her bachelor's in journalism in 2018 and master's in 2020. Katie currently works in Denver at Denver 7 KMGH and has been there for about 3 years. Prior to that, Katie worked in Memphis, Tennessee in broadcast journalism as well. And she's also an active member in our Rocky Mountain Tigers chapter, which is very active. Hey, Katie, how's it going?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. All right, next up we have Patrick Scott. Patrick is a 2014 graduate and has a Bachelor of Science in Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, as well as minors in Business and Computer Science. As Director of AI Strategy and SEO at Fruition, Patrick leads the agency's AI initiatives while driving top search engine rankings for clients across aviation, health and wellness, and home services. Patrick grew up in Chicago and first gained professional experience through sports. At Mizzou, Patrick worked with the Mizzou Athletics Media Relations Department and interned at Jump Forward. That led to stints with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Chicago Bears, Bear Down, also a Chicago gal here. And that gave him his first background in data-driven marketing, running fan analytics, managing database campaigns, and leading social media efforts. After sports, Patrick pivoted into digital marketing, joining 55places.com, neighborhoods.com, and Fat Cat Strategies. In 2020, right before COVID hit, Patrick hit the road to Denver and has been there ever since, joining Fruition in 2022. And like many Denver folks, you can find Patrick outdoors if he's not in the office, snowboarding, backpacking, mountain biking, all around Colorado. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Ellen and Bear Down. I did not realize you were a Bears fan as well. But thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to speak with everyone.
Yes, thanks for being here. All right. And last but not least, we have Kylie Tutko. Kylie graduated from Mizzou in 2012 with a Bachelor of Journalism and Strategic Communication and a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish. After graduation, she returned home to Colorado and worked in the advertising industry and then transitioned back into higher education in the Mizzou admissions office, working to recruit future students in Colorado. She returned back in 2023 and now serves as the Associate Director of College and Fair Relations at StriveScan, a company that supports college fairs nationwide. And she also is part of that Rocky Mountain Tigers chapter, which we so appreciate. You all are just an active community out there. Welcome, Kylie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Well, let's get right into questions because we had several come in as people registered, and that's really why we're here. They want to hear from you about your experience in Denver. So with this many panelists, feel free to jump in on any question that really resonates with you. But if there's some that don't resonate as much, it's okay to skip them too. So let's get going with our first question, which is, what made you decide to move to Denver? And was it a job opportunity that came first, or did you have to move and then find a job?
Who wants to go first?
Go for it, Patrick.
Sure. So I had always had an interest to move to Colorado. As Ellen said, grew up outside of Chicago, went to Mizzou, and then, Kansas City, and then back to Chicago and Raleigh, and always, grew up with a love of snowboarding and hiking, all those things. So long story short, I, in late 2019, had decided to move to Denver, and was able to fortunately switch, continue my current job at that time. Obviously I moved literally 6 days before COVID happened. So it was a very interesting time to move to a new city. But no, I came to Colorado for everything that Colorado offers. I'm sure that's something that a lot of other people share.
Great, thanks. Anyone else have anything to add about making the initial move?
I mean, I'm from Colorado originally, so I'm a bit of a special case maybe. I did have the job before I moved back to Denver, but the timing lined up really well and was able to make the move back, and am grateful that I did. If there are any Denver alumni, soon-to-be alumni out there, I think, moving back to your home state can be an interesting experience, but I think it's really good to experience it and enjoy it as an adult versus, growing up here as a child is just a very different experience, and it's so much fun to learn it in a new way.
Personally, I made the jump into a job that was not a big part of my career trajectory. I took a job that brought me to Denver. And then when my dream job opened up, I was here and was able to take the job at the Denver Post. And so there was a year stint on my resume that wasn't journalism related. But I think it was one of the most educational experiences of my life to see how another business operates. And I'm glad I did that. I chose to move to Denver and took a job that wasn't a part of my desired path, so I could be where I wanted to be.
We hear that a lot from young folks getting ready to move. Sometimes it's easier to be in that location because then when that next opportunity comes up, you're there. But obviously moving, finding housing can be challenging also.
Definitely.
I mean, I can kind of share I'm trying to what could I say that would be different? Like Katie, I'm also from here. So this was always the plan. I had talked to all of my best friends from high school. We all separated and went different places for college, but we all, I think in a really joking manner, we're no matter what, we're all going to move back to Colorado and live together for a year or two in Denver. And surprisingly, we all got jobs in Denver right after graduation. It worked out really well. But kind of like Ellen was sharing in my bio, I was living in Denver and wanted to change careers. I had been working in advertising and kind of thought that higher education would be an interesting path to go into. And I was looking for higher education jobs here in Colorado. And because I did not have any intent to leave, I knew I wanted to live here for as long as I could, but ended up needing to move to get a job in higher education that ended up meaning moving back to Columbia, Missouri. So not a bad move to make. But kind of that was always my goal, was to get back to Denver. And so, I'll kind of share, if anyone is out there is heart set on Denver, but maybe the job isn't there yet, you could maybe find yourself somewhere else with the hopes that might lead to Colorado someday. So you might get here in a roundabout way for sure.
And I will say, based off of friends and coworkers' experiences, depending on the job that you want, you may need to be a Colorado resident. A lot of state government jobs and like city government jobs do require that. So while I know sometimes parents are like, don't move without the job, there are some jobs that do require that. So depending on your path, it may work if you have the support network here. To move first and then apply.
That's really good feedback. All right, well, we have a second question. This one is, how did you or how have you continue to build community and meet people in your current location? I think when you are moving and finding your people, finding your group, sometimes that makes you feel more at home.
I mean, I can kick us off by talking about the Rocky Mountain Tigers. I feel like this will come up so many times today, but if you haven't yet heard about our chapter, it is a great one. And we're like, Katie and I are not just saying that, like we are, I think according to the numbers still, Ellen, don't correct me if I'm wrong, just let it ride. We are the second largest Mizzou alumni chapter outside of the state of Missouri. Okay, Ellen's nodding. Yeah, great.
I think you're right. Yeah, we'll go with that.
We checked the numbers. That was true. So I think we're sitting at like over 6,000 Mizzou grads, somewhere around there in the state. Yeah, and so like people like Patrick, who maybe like aren't as involved with RMT as we call it, like it's a surprise. It's surprising, right? You're like, I had no clue.
I feel embarrassed to say this. I did not realize. I mean, I knew there was a Tiger chapter. I did not realize to the extent of how large it was.
Great. Patrick's going to be involved now, so you guys can come to events and see Patrick there too. But that was such a surprising way for me to meet people. Like I said, I was from here. I was living with best friends from high school. Like I knew people, my parents still live here. Like I knew people in Colorado. And I will say, I kind of also thought that maybe my Greek alumni organization was going to be a place for me to make friends. I kind of went that route and then ended up just like going back to Rocky Mountain Tiger stuff every weekend. Like, every single like football watch party, every like sporting event that we would go and attend, like a Rockies or Avs game, something like that. Any like, casual little meetup. Like I just kept finding that felt really homey. Like it was so nice to have a part of campus out here in Colorado, even if people went to Mizzou like 40, 50 years ago. Like, they still talk about Shakespeare's and Gooch's and Harpo's. Like I think it's something really special. So I would recommend if anyone is thinking about moving here, like immediately get connected with the chapter, both for like social reasons and also like there's a lot of networking that happens when we're talking about finding jobs and things like that. So I think there is a ton that RMT can do for you. And again, that will probably be my first of many plugs, but it's great.
You are not a paid influencer.
I did used to work for Mizzou, but yeah, not for RMT at this moment.
I can also vouch for that. A decade plus ago when I moved here, I went to the Avs game. I have pictures on the ice. I've gone to the Wyoming football game on a bus trip. Like it's been a really great way to get involved. Some other ways I've met other people in the community are through leadership programs. The Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce does a bunch of leadership programs, and that's how I've made other communities and met people outside of journalism. And I've been in book clubs and other ways to get to know people on a regular basis. So those are some other recommendations I have.
Yeah, I think, from my end, I am not from here and most of my friends are not from here. I have just a few friends that have actually were born and raised in Colorado. But for me, I was very fortunate that quite literally, I know about 20, 25 Tigers that were either my pledge class or just my friends. And, my close friend group is primarily Tigers and people that I've known since I was 18 years old, and I'm 33 going on 34 right now. So I think it's, I was very fortunate to have that. And obviously coming in there with a lot of people had previously moved maybe a year or two before I did. And then, throughout COVID, especially those first 2 years where everyone was working from home, especially people, at least my friends were either in, KC, St. Louis, or Chicago, primarily, and they were kind of seeing the fun that we were having out here, camping and snowboarding and all those things, and decided to join us. Outside of that, as I mentioned, I'm big into the outdoors, and just over the last 6 years, been able to meet a really good group of people that I do those activities with or go golf with, things of that nature. I think Denver's a very fun young city with a lot of people that move here, and I think a lot of people want to make friends and meet new people. So it's at least in my experience, I've had a really good time and fun time meeting new people.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with Patrick. There are a lot of people who just want to make friends. I, at work, was very lucky in journalism. A lot of times trends younger. And so I've, made a lot of friends through work for sure. I think, like Courtney was saying, book clubs. When I first moved to my apartment in downtown Denver, some girls in my apartment complex made a book club, and then there's a book club through work. So that was quite a few opportunities there right off the bat. I have a dog, and that also helps with meeting people. There were quite a few in my apartment complex dog moms, and so we'd get together just to hang out, and you can talk dogs or take people, to take the dogs to the park together. I don't know if this is a thing other places, but I know Volo is really popular here. So I have not personally gotten through a lot of it, but I know a lot of people who it's like a cup in hand game, variety of different games. So there's like cup in hand kickball. I know some friends who do cup in hand pickleball. I think there's others too, but it's very much like you go and you can be on a rec league and everyone can play. And then you go to a bar afterwards and I think play flip cup. Again, I haven't done it, but lots of people love it. And seems like a really great way to meet other people. There's also like on social media too that I've seen, like there's lots of people who do like there's social clubs that people are making all the time. And so it is a little nerve-wracking sometimes to go when you don't know anyone, but I think especially when you're moving into a new city where you may not have maybe an already set up network like Kylie and I do from being from here originally. Just taking that one initial leap is really all it takes, and then it kind of cascades after that, has been my experience.
That's great feedback, and we hear so much being in Columbia. When people get further away from campus, sometimes that connection gets a little stronger because you are in that new location and you might not know anybody. So an MIZ means a lot more when you're 10 hours away versus 2 hours down the road, or there's less of you. So appreciate all the plugs for RMT, but I think maybe by the end of this call, I'll come move out there and do all these fun social activities also. We'll just bring the whole team. Well, I know we have a few different elements of being from Denver, moving there. Can you share a little bit about your experience finding housing? And do you have any suggestions or recommendations for people getting ready to move now about like neighborhoods or areas that really stand out? What is commuting like? Is commuting a thing? Are you working remotely? Kind of everything under that sphere is helpful for our people getting ready to move.
Sure. I can start off. This is relevant. I just moved into a new apartment about 5 weeks ago, and I've lived in 4 different places in my 6 years in Denver. Overall, I didn't experience any. I didn't have any bad experiences finding housing. I would say typically, if you're looking for housing, you really don't need to start seriously looking until like maybe 2 months out, 6 weeks, in terms of actually wanting to sign a lease and everything. Obviously look ahead of time and get an idea of where you'd like to stay. But places move pretty quickly, and a lot of times like you'll be looking on Zillow and it'll be like, hey, this place is brand new listing, it's available in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. So really around that 8 weeks to 6 week is a good time to really want to nail down a lease. I'd say in terms of neighborhoods, and we were, joking about this. I think overall Denver's a, relatively safe city and everything, and there's not, a lot of bad neighborhoods that you can be in. I think for, if I was 22, 23, 24 years old moving to Denver right now, I think I'd look at the Cap Hill neighborhood. I think I'd look at, um, Highlands and maybe Rhino. Those areas are close to downtown, just outside of it. There's a lot of fun restaurants and bars. It's a lot of other young people as well as young families. I personally live in the Wash Park neighborhood, just a little bit further south. I love that. Been on the south side of the town for a while now. Um, I think there's a ton of great areas though, whether it's Sloan's Lake, whether it's Highlands, whether it's the Berkeley area. There's a lot of good places. At least that's my thought.
Capitol comes up a lot. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Something fun that just like happened randomly when my friends and I were looking for housing, like we found a lot of great places in the DU neighborhood, so right by the University of Denver. And I think I would still recommend that as a new grad. Like, we were 22, 23, living around a lot of other like, either undergrads or grad students. You can hop on the light rail and go downtown really easily, which we really appreciated. Like, that's awesome to get to like sporting events, Lodo, going out, things like that. So that was something I kind of enjoyed. Was, I don't know, it almost felt like we were extending our college experience a little bit, like not in a, oh, we're not growing up way, but like, oh, we're still, and there's like great restaurants around there, obviously like gorgeous green spaces. You're still pretty close to Wash Park and things like that. But we actually kind of we didn't want to live in like one of those big kind of high rises. We wanted like something kind of like more like a house, very like East Campus vibes, honestly, is kind of what we were looking for. And we were kind of having trouble with people renting to 22-year-old girls like that, didn't have a ton of rental history. Like I had lived in the dorms, my sorority house, and then I had one apartment that I had lived in Columbia. So I didn't have like great rental, like landlord recommendations at that point. And so we found that the people that were most likely to rent to us were in the DU neighborhood. And we actually really enjoyed that for a couple of years. But yeah, I think the biggest divide is like, do you want to be east or west of I-25? Do you want to be close to the mountains? I've always been like, except DU, but that's where I-25 kind of curves. Like I've always been an east side of I-25 girl. Like it's only like 10 more minutes to get to the mountains, but like I have some friends that live on the west side and they're like, I would never live east of I-25. So like, I don't know, if you plan to be in Golden, like biking every weekend or whatever, like maybe do look at like Highlands or even like, I had some friends that lived in like the Belmar neighborhood by like kind of in Lakewood. That's got like a lot of great restaurants, a lot going on there. And that also now you can like light rail into downtown. So that's kind of cool. I know you mentioned commuting, Ellen. I will say I have pretty much always worked from home or biked to work. So I unfortunately cannot really speak to a commute. But I would say traffic is fine here. Like we have it,
Fine.
but it's not going to be like Chicago, New York, LA, something like that. Like we have traffic, but it's not that bad.
Having grown up in Chicago,
Yeah.
it's nothing compared to that. In one of my stays that I mentioned, I did live by the DU area. So Kylie, everything that you mentioned about a really great, pretty area. The campus is beautiful. It's very close to everything. And also to your point, like, we used to take, we would take the light rail, go to Nugs games all the time. So very, very convenient.
I'm going to add another question to the screen because it's kind of merging with our next one. Please keep talking about the topic, but what have been some of your favorite things about Denver? Like we've already touched on some food, activities, community scene. So feel free to add that, Courtney and Katie, if you wanted to jump in on housing or any of these topics.
I was just going to add to the housing. A lot of my employees start off in Cap Hill, as was mentioned before. One thing to keep in mind there is parking is really hard if you want your car, and there's not really any other options for public transport other than the bus in that neighborhood, but it's very walkable to downtown. But that is where most of my employees land to start, and it's a really great way to be central in the city and get exposure to a bunch of other neighborhoods and maybe find where you want to land next. So that would be my top recommendation for that. And that goes to the food and activities. There's lots of affordable stuff to do near Cap Hill. So I like to advise people to start there. And I did too. Just maybe a few blocks off of Colfax.
I was one of the people that lived in the Cap Hill neighborhood. I was technically, when I first moved back, was a little bit north of that in what's called Uptown, but it's basically the same neighborhood. And I was in a high-rise apartment complex in an 1,800 square foot, not 1,800, 600 square foot studio. I will say it does cost $1,800. So the one thing with living in some of those environments are they can be more expensive. So definitely like getting roommates like Kylie had, I would highly suggest, and especially in the DU neighborhood, there's probably either grad students or, you know, someone else who's looking for a roommate if you don't know anyone out here automatically. And yeah, I think on social media, I've seen people move out here and that's been like a way to connect and maybe could be a possible roommate situation. I don't know if this is still a thing, but when I moved out here 4 years ago, my management suggested there are people who will like source apartments for you. I don't remember what their technical title would be called, but they are sometimes a little more expensive. Like apartments, you don't have to pay for the like sourcing human, but they were super helpful in terms of being able to like, I told them where I needed to work and like where I kind of wanted to be, and so they found like a list of apartment complexes in that area across like a price range of, you know, different price points, so I could kind of decide. And I would say like in those big kind of complexes like you were talking about with parking, like if you're, you know, gonna have a car, you gotta pay to park it a lot of times, and then for me with a dog, you got to pay pet rent. So just things to keep in mind in terms of budgeting. I have found that people who have a roommate often do a lot better kind of keeping it more affordable. But I was able to live there on a new salary, so it is possible. But it's, you know, definitely tighter. I think living out a little further from downtown gives you a little more flexibility affordability wise, and you're not too far, especially like even though I'm from Arvada, this is not a plug, but a lot of people I know really love Old Town Arvada, and that is close to a light rail line. So that's a possibility, is something that's close-ish, but not quite in that same price range. And like everyone else was saying, like Golden, everything in Denver is pretty much like 20 to 30 minutes from everything else. So if you can't afford to be in downtown Denver and you end up in Lakewood, like you're gonna be fine. You can get downtown, no problem. And there are lots of really, the beauty of kind of the Denver metro area is how big it is and how many different, like Golden is really lovely and Old Town Arvada is really awesome, but they're not in downtown Denver. So you have lots of places to explore, even if you're not quite straight in the city. And there's too many food places to have one recommendation, but you could eat endlessly and hit a new place every single day. So lots of options.
That's good to hear. That always can kind of help you settle in or invite a friend to a different restaurant and try all that stuff to build the community. Well, this was a question from our audience, and I really liked it, so I wanted to make sure we got to it. How have you found the ability to strike a balance of settling into a healthy routine while saying yes to new opportunities with the intention of building new connections and friends? And I know we're looking at this from a young alumni perspective, moving to a new city, but I think we have such a great variety of graduation years and timelines here. Like as you reach new stages of life, you're still finding those new people. So where do we find that balance of keeping a good routine, but still being open to new opportunity?
My top recommendation is to keep a calendar. If games are really important to you, put the football schedule on, and that's how you prioritize doing alumni things. And that can be a part of your healthy routine, is making sure you're intentional and getting out there and meeting people Even if you don't go to every game, at least you're aware of them. That's once I, made sure every book club meeting was on my calendar and every opportunity to socialize was out there. Then I could fill in with new connections and say yes to opportunities, or I might skip that game because this person is important to meet. If your job supports it, taking coffees during weekdays or lunch breaks is a really nice way to connect professionally with other people, and not bog down your personal time or your personal routines. If your job supports it. That's a very important note.
I mean, I'm not sure where we are necessarily going with healthy routine, but I will say one of my favorite things about Denver is just how active most people are here. That certainly is not the case with everyone, but I think a lot of people that are choosing to move to Denver, especially as a young person, are interested in this like kind of active outdoorsy lifestyle. And so I think like I am so thankful that a large portion of the things that I do with friends are active things. Like we're meeting up for hikes. We are, like Patrick was saying, like going skiing or snowboarding together, like, and plug RMT always does a Mizzou ski day every year. That's so fun. But like a big way of me meeting people and maintaining relationships with people has been through, I think, things that are, yes, sometimes like friends are like, yeah, let's go and get a drink on a patio, something like that. But a lot of times it is like, let's bring the dogs to Wash Park and do a couple of laps. Let's walk here and like, pick up, let's like walk to the grocery store together, pick up some groceries, walk home. Like that, I think is just so ingrained in like Colorado culture that I think it is really, it's good. I think it's very easy to find people that can like help you maintain that routine while still like, so I don't want those two things to seem like they are conflicting things, like, making new connections and maintaining a healthy routine. Like, I think that those two things can and often are like incorporated together, at least here in Colorado. I don't want to say that like other cities don't do this, but I think like more so maybe than some other ones.
I agree. It's very envious.
Yeah. Like we do Tigers on the Trail for Rocky Mountain Tigers too, where we'll all go hiking together. So like it's kind of a thing for sure.
Go ahead, Katie.
I will say too, I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me when you originally put the question across is I do think it can be a hard balance, and I'm not perfect at it. But from my experience, those first couple invitations are some of the most important. No matter how scary it might be or nerve-wracking, I think it's just kind of getting over that hump of getting to know someone new or, hanging out. And then it becomes a lot easier. And then, you can say no a little bit more once you're a little more established with that person. I think everyone, doesn't want to be shot down. So I think sometimes, the initial no, sometimes people stop asking. So there's a balance there of, protecting your own physical and mental health. But as much as you can say no, at least in the beginning, I think I would advise it. And you never know. I have found most often is I'm scared to go, and then afterwards I'm so happy that I did, and am really grateful that I did. And the other part I would say is being the person who plans something or initiates. It's not my strong suit, but it is something I admire and try to emulate as much as possible. Of like Helen had said, like the new restaurant you want to try, like inviting someone to go with you is something simple. And then, you get an hour with someone, meeting someone new and talking, potentially doing other things in the future.
I was trying to think of something different. I think all three of you, nailed it. I think just my thought process with a lot of things, both personal and professional, is you should say yes more than no. And I probably say yes a little bit too much, but I think, what Katie was just saying, more often than not, I'm really glad that I did that.
Kylie, I really like what you mentioned just about, hey, let's go get our groceries for the week together, where it doesn't have to be high stakes. You don't have to be getting hair and makeup done. It's really just getting to know people and taking some of that pressure off to, we both need to eat. We both need to buy our groceries. Let's do it together and then work up to those bigger experiences. But it sounds like such a great community with so much to do. I think you all, I love the feedback you shared for our young people. Well, we've got one final question that's kind of like the final nugget of information. So, what's that one piece of advice you would give to students moving to a city they aren't familiar with? And I'll add that, Patrick, I know you mentioned you spent time in Raleigh and in Kansas City, and we have people who have taken different paths to get to Denver. So, if your answer doesn't relate to your move to Denver, maybe it relates to one of those other moves to a different location. So, just curious to hear, what's that piece of advice we should be hanging on to at the end?
I'm going to put in a plug for reading local news. Not necessarily the Denver Business Journal. If you're moving to town, they might tell you about places to work. Our stories might help you find, companies that are growing, but there are great local publications here in Denver. Denverite, I think, is an especially quirky and fun, free publication to read. I think it's a really robust news environment. You can find great information about your city, and it answers wonderful questions. I also am a Redditor, so I would say get on Reddit. And you'll get a real taste of the community that way. Don't ask questions that get asked a lot in that community. But those are two ways I've gotten to know Denver from behind a screen if you're a little shy. Those are my plugs.
Love it.
I will 100% re-up the read and watch local news angle because I have to. And yeah, there's so many great options that are free and do not require you to pay for anything. So, and on social media, again, just a plug. I would say both here in Denver and in other cities that I've lived in, my little hack is I like to make a bucket list for the city. And even as silly as like, if I've tried this Trader Joe's, I want to try the other Trader Joe's to see like which is better. Or, like hair salons and like all of the little things. I think one of my friends in Memphis, who's also a Mizzou alum, put it really well. But like part of the routine of just having your favorite, dentist or just the little things like that kind of makes it feel a little bit more like home. And so, but obviously fun things too, the new bar that's opened, a park that you haven't been to in Denver. Again, there's an endless amount of hiking trails. Like you could do a different one every single day and still never finish them all. So plenty of things to put on the bucket list, but I even now try to go back and like reference like, okay, I haven't been to that coffee shop and I'd really like to go to that coffee shop. I'll ask my friend from work who's my coffee buddy and we'll go get coffee after work at that place instead of somewhere else just to try something different. And there are just so many possibilities that it'll truly keep you busy forever, and that's kind of the fun of it for me.
I think for me, it's related to what I said earlier, but I think if you're just in this point right now, a senior who's graduating or recently graduated, and I think the other speakers here can attest to this, but the older you get, the harder it is to make a big move, to go somewhere new. You set up roots. And I think if you're at this point right now where you really want to move somewhere new, if you're not from Colorado, and this is the time to do it. You don't want to look back in 10 years and regret not doing something. And I think that's just a mindset that like I said, I have both personally and professionally, but I think it's an amazing place to live. I've spent 6 wonderful years here. I've met, I had great friends, and I've met so many other amazing friends, and just the lifestyle. I'm very happy out here. It's very sunny and warm all the time. And I think that if you're just in a situation when you're younger, take the opportunity. Go grab coffee with that random person. Go move to the new city. Take the job that may be scary or not sure about. You can always go home if it doesn't work out.
That's great feedback. I love that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything different. It seems like I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over, but like, I would say get out there and just like walk the city. Like my friends and I still to this day, we love our laps in Wash Park for sure. We constantly are saying like, what's the best park in Denver? And like the rankings are so hard. There's
Wash Park is absolutely the correct answer.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow, strong.
Wash 1 and then Cheeseman 2 for my opinion.
And then
I would agree with that.
Sloan 3, City 4.
I'm going City 3, Sloan's 4, but I have not. I lived around the other parks and not Sloan, so.
Sloan's a
The Wash
nicer,
one.
smaller, more accessible. That's like a baby step into City Park. City Park's just so big.
I know. Yeah. So big debate here. So like, yeah, it's so great to meet up in a park and walk, but like I think someone mentioned like Sunnyside or Tennyson, like go park your car on a random street, like both meet there and then like walk in that neighborhood. You never know what you'll stumble upon. And so I think like that for me is the best way to get to know a city is just by walking those streets, seeing what you come across. It's best done with a friend, I think, but take your dog or like put your AirPods in, call your mom, whatever. Like it's good exercise. You're going to be outside in the sunshine, most likely. We've had a really weird winter here. We essentially did not have winter. And so we're all like, it's been so warm and nice. But yeah, like even in January, typically we're going to have like, I was going to say like a 45-degree day, but like it's really warm when it's 45 degrees and sunny here. So like you'll want to be outside walking. And I think that's a really good way to know the city. And I will make my final plug for Rocky Mountain Tigers. If you need anything, we have Facebook, Instagram, like seriously, people will comment all the time. They're like, I'm looking for a roommate. I am looking for a job in this career. Like so maybe like I'll expand that to just like use your resources. We've talked about local
We're
news.
also on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thanks, Katie. We just got LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah. Great. We're like working on LinkedIn.
It's there.
It's there. Yeah. Katie does a lot of our social media. Yay. You're doing great, Katie. But yeah, use your resources. Like one other story I'll share, one of my like best friends now, but we didn't really know each other at Mizzou when she moved to Denver. Cause I think we had like, she was on HOCO Steerco when I was like my sororities liaison. So we like slightly crossed paths, but like didn't really know each other. But back in the day, it was very important to add each other on Facebook as Facebook friends. So she had added me as a Facebook friend. And then when she moved to Denver, she's like the most confident person I know, but she just started throwing dinner parties where she would just invite like anyone who she kind of knew in Denver over to her house. And she would just like order a bunch of pizzas and be like, hey, bring beer, bring cookies, whatever. And the way she found all of these people was she asked every single person she knew, do you know someone in Denver? Like she asked her neighbors where she grew up. She asked her aunts and uncles. She asked her friends who went to different colleges. Do you know anyone who's living in Denver, like as a new grad? And so she like created an amazing network. And I was lucky enough to like get plugged into that. So like use your resources. I guarantee like if you think you don't know anyone here, you probably know like a friend of a friend. And that sometimes like, yeah, we're still best friends today. So yeah, you guys can do it, but we're all here to help too.
That's such a nice note to end our questions on. And as we have more webinars this week about Kansas City and Dallas, I can picture that being a theme that, it takes some courage to go somewhere new and you will get some fun experiences out of it and learn a lot. And you kind of have to be willing to jump. But to hear all of you say these positive things intermixed with, the real life where sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you make the job transition. It's really fulfilling to hear how much you enjoy your lives and your friendships and your community in Denver. So just so appreciative of you taking the time. And Kylie, you gave a great segue. If people are interested in learning more about Rocky Mountain Tigers, visit us at Mizzou.com and you'll be able to search for Rocky Mountain Tigers, get all those links to the Facebook and the Instagram and the LinkedIn. And we also have your events on our main events page, which, as we've covered, you are a very active chapter. And I think that really lends to the Denver and the Colorado lifestyle. So appreciate all the plugs. I promise I didn't pay this group extra to make all of them. But before we wrap up, I just want to share that, let's get it going the right way. Sorry, here we go. We have one of our fantastic alumni career coaches, Janae Gravitz. She's in our alumni career coaching directory, which you can also find on Mizzou.com. If you are getting ready to make that move or have a career transition coming up, we at the Alumni Association are always very happy to have those conversations with our folks watching. But as we record and are live today in April of 2026, Janae is getting ready to kick off her 6-week career launch pad for early career professionals. And that's going to cover all the stuff that you learned on campus about resumes and interviews and what those next goals are. But sometimes you forget that information and you have people like Janae who are able to fill in those blanks. So she is offering this opportunity, just getting ready to start in about 2 weeks at the end of April. So more information will come out in your confirmation email that you'll receive after this recording if you are interested in participating. But just a final thank you to all of our panelists. We will have their information up in the recording, and their names are all here with us, so you can connect with them on LinkedIn or in that Rocky Mountain Tigers group. So thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
MIZ.
MIZ.
GOU.
We owe you. Thanks all.
Everyone, take care.